in terms of getting on this topic, especially about your wife, and also I have to ask you about something. Because listen, Samson, I have to tell you the truth.
Oh yeah,
I have to tell you something. I was one of those guys.
Malenka,
with all due respect, you're gonna understand my point. You're gonna understand my point. I was one of those guys that was questioning about your decision of having Malenka as the wife, and I'm gonna explain. I want you you get my point. First, I remember clearly that when Fuan met you, he told you like, listen, Samson, you cannot have your wife coaching you. Like, nothing to do with her knowledge. It's just not meant to work, right? It's too much conflict. And just to make it very clear before, it has nothing to do with her knowledge.
No, it's just the idea is your
I
wife.
don't know about her knowledge. How can I judge her knowledge? I mean, I know she has a nutrition background. I know she was an athlete herself. I know that she was the point of contact between you and the other coaches, right? So I'm sure she knows what she's doing. But my point was, you were so close to winning the Olympia. And matter of fact, you were. You were so close to winning the Olympia. And in the position that you are, Samson, you can pick and choose the coach you want. You can have Henny, you can have Cito, you can have Patrick, whoever you want. And what I was questioning was, wouldn't it be risky to work with somebody that knows a lot about your body, but doesn't has the major experience with open bodybuilders, high caliber open bodybuilders, and like other athletes? And what I want to ask you about this is, how was this decision? How was the process of, listen, I'm not going to a famous coach, even though I can choose wherever I want. I'm going to go back and work with Malenka. And how did this all work together? And how was this decision?
So basically,
I know that pisses you off a little bit.
No, it doesn't. But I'm being honest.
I could lie and say, you know,
I'd rather be honest. Because this is what people was thinking at the time. Because people, first I would say people don't understand. People didn't understand our relationship dynamics first off, right? Obviously, she got me into bodybuilding. She's always prepping, you know. And when every time we prepped, every decision we made, people understand, like, we're my coach. When I worked with like John and I worked with Milos and I worked with everybody, the way we've always worked out is like, we all sit down at the end of the week. We all discuss together.
Oh, nice.
So how was this week? How did you do? And most of the time, they don't even talk to me. They talk to her. So how was he? How did he eat? How did he train? How did he? She was the one that kept track of everything. Everything, every diet, every change. She would do the changes without even telling me. She would just put the food in front of me, going, and I don't even know.
You don't know what you're eating.
I don't even know what I'm eating. I'm just eating. Okay, train. So she was always that reference point and everything else. And she already had a nutrition background anyway. Most of the time, the meals I eat today, she was one who wrote that meals down 5 years ago. All the coaches I've had, they've already adapted that same meals. They haven't changed it. They've come in and they go, okay, cool, let's keep that same thing we adapted it. So people they didn't understand that dynamic. Like she was the one that wrote out, okay, first meal is this, second meal is this, third meal is this. We need you to have different source of protein so your metabolism can metabolize all this source of protein. You have all the amino acid. She was on the broke down the sources of carbs I eat. She did all this with her nutritional background years ago. So when coaches came out, they looked going, wow, this is really good.
It's solid,
Just okay, let's just adapt this. And they put little changes to those things, but it was all her initial plan. So when I see people go watch my very first YouTube video on what I was eating before I had any coach. That was the same meals I'm eating today. So she already had that locked down. And then training, she was the one who was always taught me how to train. She was always the one that was kind of with me every single session everywhere I was in there. So yes, she didn't have the experience of working at the highest end, but people forget that she was there every step of the way. And the experience of us going from amateur show, first pro show, she was the waypoint. She was always one that was playing that whole one. So her experience was building the whole time. So the pressure is no different. It's always there because as much as it is, you have a coach, they're with you, man, how long? Hardly ever. You always message.
Very hardly.
But now you have somebody that is every single minute, every training session. When you look good, when you wake up in the morning, when you wake up in the morning, when you look bad, she sees you all the time. And remember, she lives with you, so you ain't cheating on your diet.
You can't.
This is somebody that every training session she's right there every time. So, can you think of any better coach in the world than somebody that knows exactly what you eat, exactly what you look like, when you're training, where you are every single minute of the day, everything you do is right there next to you.
Wow.
So when we came in and we were kind of there, we had the fun. Okay, we're looking for a new coach. I sat back and I thought about going, okay, who is in that position to first now learn about my body all over, because when you get a new coach, they have to learn about your body. It's not, they don't just come in and go, okay, right, I know what works for you. Now do this. It doesn't work that way. And you're gonna make a lot of mistakes.
All over again.
They're gonna make a lot of mistakes before they figure it out. They're gonna take a long time before they figure out. So when we just finished Arnold 2024, I believe, Arnold. Now, if I was gonna pick a new coach, somehow before the Olympia prep, they have to figure out, okay, how does this guy respond to this? How does it work here? And then try to make it perfect for the Olympia stage. To find a coach to do that,
you couldn't test for the Olympia, right?
You can't test for it. You can't. We have to do a few shows before we even. And it took us doing how many shows to even get to this point. So they have to figure that out. You can't have, no matter how experienced a coach is, they don't experience with you. So there's nobody there. So at that point, we're like, who do we work with at this point? Who do we know will be able to pick that up very quickly? I would have gone with Hani, but Hani was coaching 2 guys I was going up against. I'm like, well, all top 3 guys are fighting, but they're the same guy. Coach, come on, man. I'm an athlete. I'm competitive. I'm not gonna sit there and be like, this is cool. They can pretend, but I'm like, yo, I'm gonna beat the guys you're training. So we're not gonna get on. So automatically, that was already kind of it self-diluted the whole thing. Like, okay, who do you go with? So when we sat down, I was like, this is pretty much a no-brainer.
Let's give it a go.
You can give it a go. You do. You already know what I'm doing. You know how to make it better. You know what needs to be better. And even the whole time we were prepping, Mel, most of the time, she had an input for everything to make us better. But because she wasn't the main coach, she always said, like, look, I don't want to step on nobody's toes. So she never really opened her mouth to say it. She always said, look, he's your coach. I know that this hasn't worked, but there's only so much I can say without being the controlling wife. So I must stay quiet. And even though she knew that, she stayed quiet. So now we're in that position. I was like, so that's when we did. I remember, guys, we did the Arnold UK, and I was like, look, pick me for the show. You do it. And she did it, and we were like, oh, how do you look so much better in 2 weeks? And I was like, she already figured it out. I was like, okay, so that was a trial run. Okay, now let's go into the off season. Let's go into things. You just do it, because I know even for me, it's a lot less stress when I know that the person that is there already knows my body, already knows what I do. I don't need to explain. I don't eat that. No, I eat this.
She knows better than you.
She knows me, so I don't even need to think about it. I can just focus on being an athlete and focus on training. She don't even need to tell me what carbs I actually need to cut out. She's just giving them like, eat, and I'm like, okay, all right, no, eat, and I'm eating, going, why is this food getting smaller? I don't get it. But now you're taking the complete stress out of the situation.
You're not thinking, right?
You're not thinking. You're just now you're being a machine and you're not doing anything else. So for me, this dynamic was perfect. I was like, this is ideal. So the one part that was like, okay, was touchy part of it is, okay, now you talk about obviously chems and PEDs and everything. Okay, you want a better understanding on that house part. That's where Married Health came along.
Okay.
Now it was like, okay, now you think, like if you look at a football team, they have different coaches. They don't just have one coach that does everything. They have someone that does the team. They have a team. So this is the whole idea. It was like, okay, how do we make that dynamic work? The part that we're not good at, the part that we need more knowledge at, we need someone that has more knowledge around that. So we brought that in and we're like, okay, this is our full circle. This is what works. Let's educate ourselves and bring that in. So when we come into the show, we started working that dynamics and it just started to click. Very quickly, it started to click, She was, people think that because your wife is going to be soft on you. Yeah.
It should be the opposite.
She is the hardest coach I have. Look, I can tell you right, there's not been I've never worked with a harder coach in my eyes. There's not even close. Everybody, why she's gonna tell you when we're here? I'm like, you don't know my wife. You don't know my wife, man. I'm like, yeah, you don't know her. So trust me, when she diets me, she punishes me, and I don't. That's why we argue. We don't get along. It's like she goes crazy on it. So when we kind of go in the show, she was putting me through the hardest prep I've ever had before. Most could be like, oh, you look a bit sad. You don't look a bit fuller today. Okay, let's give you a cheat, man. Let's give you. Like, no, you're gonna suffer. I'm gonna make you suffer. I'm like, but I'm tired. I'm exhausted. Yeah. You're suffering anyway. So we had that sort of dynamics going into the prep. So we were able to push harder than I've ever pushed harder. And we know one dynamic that we all know is like, I don't get flat no matter how much you diet me. I always look around and full. So why bother about filling me out when you're always full? So let's diet you as hard as you can go. So it sucks because you're never in a good point. You're always horrible, but it's that dynamic of pushing into that deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. So we carry that dynamic in there. So when we try to announce that, okay, this is why, and everyone's like, oh, this is crazy. This is not going to work. I'm like, but it's not coming from an emotional side. It's coming from a logic.
Yeah,
it's coming from a logical thing, but people didn't know. That's why it's like, because that was kind of frustrating. I was like, but look at my history. Look at all the things, all the coach. Every coach has always said, "Oh, Mel, they talk to Mel. They don't talk to me. They go through her anyway." I was like, so she must have an involvement. And it was like, I'm like, come on, man. I'm a logical guy. Have I ever made a decision that make no sense?
Yeah.
There must be some thinking behind it. You wouldn't risk my career just for the sake of, well, I don't care. I just want to.
Yeah.
No, there's always logic behind it. And I was like, come on. So when, you had a lot of, we were sitting going, I don't know why this is so confusing for people. If anybody knew our relationship, people that knew, they were like, oh, duh, it makes sense. People that didn't know, they were like, oh, this doesn't make any sense.
Why? Yeah. Like,
so we were
like I did. I'm like, come on, he can work with Henny, he can work with Aceto. So many, everybody wants to work with you.
Exactly. Right? So, but we always knew that there's a risk versus a reward. What is the risk of working with a new coach outside that has never worked with you before?
Yeah, it's risky. It's risky.
That's more riskier than you taking someone that's already been there, that knows more than. So when you look at that dynamics of it, it's like,
it's risky.
Which risk would you rather take?
Got it.
So that was where we kind of came up with the idea, like, this makes perfect, it makes more sense than anything. So when we came through the prep, that's why it just clicked.
And for Fuad's point, and the challenge of the conflicts, because we had couples here that they are athletes, and like, why don't you coach each other? And like, we were gonna kill ourselves. And trust me, it was not gonna work.
It takes a different look. Don't get me wrong, it's not easy. It's really not easy for you. So man, you have to be humbled enough to understand that your wife knows more than you.
Yeah.
You can't be chauvinistic. You can't be like, oh, what she know? You have to understand that, okay, I know what I'm good at. You put me in the gym and you say, okay, go for it. And I'll kill myself in the gym. That's me. I'm the athlete. I'm the mental.
Yeah.
But if you give me a diet plan, say, write this out for it, I'm like, I don't know. What the hell you talking? This is not my thing. I don't do scientific approach. I don't do, calculate. No. Just give me the food and let me eat it. Let me do what I do. So I know I know what she excels at. So when you bring that together, we're like, it's the point of you going, I know where my part ends and where your part begins. You know where your part ends and where my part. So when you bring that together, there's no stepping on each other's toes. So like, that's why I always tell the story, like, pre-judging the Olympia. People don't understand what happened in pre-judging Olympia before we go on stage. They thought it was just smooth. I'm like, no, I almost screwed it up, just like I've done in many shows. Because if we go in Olympia, because normally when we prep for all the shows, it's like pre-judging Friday, you're normally feeling out. You normally got a lot of food in your system, so you're feeling good. You're feeling like, I'm nice and full. I'm hard. And this time it was like, no, you pre-judging afternoon. I'm starving. I'm like, man, I'm so hungry. I got to eat something. She's like, no. You don't need to be full. You're good. And I'm like, this is bullshit. I'm like, so I'm standing in the mirror. I'm looking at myself. I'm going, I look flat. I look horrible. This is crap. I don't like this. And I'm like, no. I don't. This is bullshit. I don't want. And I almost screwed up because I'm like, I'm not doing this show. This is crap. And she's telling me, no. And I remember I was about to lose my shit. And she was like, look. She gave me a meal and she said, go to bed. Go take a nap. Body view mentality. Don't trust your own thinking.
Yeah,
and you see,
this is very important.
This is something that is very hard for body viewers to do, especially when you're in that mindset. Everything in your mind is telling you, you're right. I know what I'm doing. I'm right. She doesn't know. The coach doesn't know. I'm right. And you try to be able to have that way, would always be like, I know right now that my mind is telling me this. It's not what's really happening. This is very hard for people to do.
Yeah.
To stand there and go, even though my head is telling me without a doubt, you are flat. You look horrible because you're flat. You need to eat more carbs because you're flat. And everything is screaming, look how flat you are. And I know you have to be able to stay going.
You know a story that I love, Samson, that she was hiding the scales in your house, right?
As soon as prep stopped, get rid of scales.
No scales.
You don't need
you don't look your weight.
You don't need your weight. Well, what do you need your weight for? You don't need.
This is awesome. This is awesome.
Look, I know my demons. I know what I struggle with. You try to eliminate that to make yourself better at this. I know for what, if I look at the scales every day, I'll be like, weight goes up, oh man, I'm too fat. Weight goes down, oh man, I'm too small.
It messes your head up.
It messes up your head up. You're trying to make this is not. It's not how it works. You have to be able to trust somebody else, take control of that, and say, okay, no, you're fine. So this is the kind of thing you have to be able to in that mindset. So it's being able to be wherewithal enough and judge yourself enough to think, my mind is telling me what I want to hear. It's not telling me the truth. So when you're at that stage, you need to say, okay, I trust you more than I trust myself right now. So if you say, I'm fine, I'm looking okay, or you say I need to lose more or whatever, I need to trust you and let you take control of that. That is where the whole thing comes from. That's where you have to understand that you have to trust the coach completely. It cannot be, you have to trust them, especially those last days before the show. You have to trust them because you can't trust your own self. And having that relationship with your wife,
It's not easy.
It's not easy. It's not easy. It's not easy. You know, you always, and your wife has the ability to tell you what you don't want to hear.
Yeah.
Another thing, a lot of couples, it's not easy. I mean, how do you tell your husband, man, you don't look great? It's not easy. I don't think a lot of people can do that to the other half. But you need.
She has to tell this at the same time, like, keep you up, right? So
exactly.
it's so hard.
So it's so hard to do. And that's why we say, like, although it sounds like that's a great. It's something that has taken years of us failing and struggling to work to the point where we're now, the point where we're like, okay, I know what I do and you know what you do. And you know how to speak to me in the right time and tell me what I need to hear. And I know when you're telling me the truth and when you're not, and believe that fully and let this dynamics work. So that's what is come. It's come from a lot of work to get to this point where it's like, okay, this is how we do what we do.
And your physique got so much better, Samson. What do you think was the main point? What clicked right? Was the peak week, or was the nutrition
it was the whole thing. I mean, normally in prep, like, you know, it's being able to pull first you have to put off enough dense muscle, but being able to pull yourself down low enough, because like when your body is in the point where it wants to grow, to be able to push yourself down low enough and stay that low in low calories in deficit. Because most people be like, if I tell people what I eat in a freaking prep, they'll be like, you're that big, how the hell can you eat that much and still be that big? Most people are like, oh, how can you not get but it's like, you have to keep your food that low in a long time that you have to peel off that much body fat and stay in that state for long enough. And then the peak week is another one where we always have the idea of peak week. It's like, okay, you know, you deplete and then you carb up and then you dry out. And then when you have to tell yourself that you don't need to carb up, all of a sudden it's like, are you brave enough to try that? To believe that I'm going to dry out, no carb up, and somehow look good on stage without blowing it. It's hard. It's very because automatically you're thinking, but I look flat, but but you need to then say, we have to try this. So it's trying to understand dynamics and try to and bring down the stage and have that click and have that work out for you.
Makes sense. Ó, só falar um negócio, pessoal, eu convidei a Marlene para participar, mas ela não quis, né? O Samson falou que ela é mais backstage, então eu fiz o convite, pedi para participar, principalmente na hora de a gente falar de treino e dieta aqui. Mas ela é mais na dela. I'm saying that people like, put Marlene in the table to talk about it. I'm saying that I invited her. We've tried. But she's very low key, right? She's
very low key, and you know what? I think, you know, it's something that I've tried to get her to do for her. But she said the same thing. She always wants to be in the background. She don't.
Yeah, that's nice. Also,
it's that point where she's been an enthusiast that look, she knows she's my wife, she knows my coach, and she don't want to end up taking away from that by standing in front and say, hey, look at me, let me speak. And she wants to remain in that point of it. And you know, I gotta respect that, even though I think she needs to share her knowledge and know how much she knows, but she never wants to.